Appreciation to all of the members of the Space Council, and to reflect for just a few moments before we get started on how much has changed over the last 4 years since the very first meeting of this council. You know, when you look at national security, the progress that we've made in civil and private space sectors, one thing is clear: in 4 short years, America is leading in space once again. It's true. When we took office, the National Space Council had lain dormant for more than 25 years. But President Trump articulated an inspiring vision for renewed American leadership in space. In his inaugural address, the President said, and I quote, "We stand at the birth of a new millennium, ready to unlock the mysteries of space." And so we have set out to do. In our first year in office, the President revived this council to reinvigorate and coordinate space activities all across the federal government. The President brought together some of the best minds in government and the private sector to strengthen America's space enterprise. And so many of you are here with us today, and we're truly grateful. And whether it's providing for the common defense or growing our space economy across America, that's exactly what we've done throughout the past 4 years. In the very first days of our administration, the President signed multiple executive orders and presidential directives to reorient our space program to human space exploration. He took steps to unleash America's commercial space companies and to safeguard our national interests in the increasingly complex and competitive domain of space. In our first year in office, the President signed Space Policy Directive 1 and gave NASA a clear goal: that we are going to go back to the moon, and this time we are going to stay. We made clear in our first year that the moon is not a final destination, but it's a base for developing and training for future deep space missions. We're going back to the moon, and then we're going to Mars and beyond. Americans are going to be We're going to be the very first not only to develop on the moon and Mars, but also to continue to develop the economic potential of space exploration. Even in this challenging year in the life of our nation, when Americans have sacrificed so much, we've continued to make steady progress toward that goal of renewed American leadership in space. This spring, it was my great honor to attend the first crewed launch, along with the President of the United States, from right here at the Kennedy Space Center. It's the first time we sent American astronauts into space from Kennedy Space Center in nearly a decade. And then, not to wait a minute further, this last November, I returned again to see the second crewed full-scale launch and mission of American astronauts from American soil back into American space. That's the result of real leadership and renewed American leadership in space. And what's remarkable is those rockets were built by American private enterprise in this new partnership that we have forged and built upon in the United States over the last 4 years. When a businessman turned president decided to renew our commitment to space, he knew it was important to unleash the power of America's private sector, and so we have done. As you will no doubt hear today from the Secretary of Commerce, we went to work early on to cut and streamline out-of-date regulations that made the United States the #1 country in the world for space business, and will continue to accelerate investment and development in space. This past April, the President signed an executive order to recognize and promote the rights of private companies to recover and use space resources. That order, we believe, will provide the kind of clarity and stability that our businesses need to thrive. It'll give our entrepreneurs the incentive to take our commercial space activity to all new heights. And just last week, NASA made its first commitments to buy lunar material from private companies, and will continue to build on creating the kind of incentives that will generate investment and space development for generations to come. And even as we make great progress in expanding America's commercial activity in space, we also recognize the challenges of digital threats to our space operations. The United States continues to face an era of competition. But as members of the National Space Council know, It's a competition that America is winning today, and we're going to keep on winning in space for generations to come. And that's one more reason today, while I'm pleased to announce that the President, as of today, has issued a new national space policy that we will articulate at this meeting of the National Space Council. The National Space Policy provides the President's direction to the executive branch on all space activities. It emphasizes that space is critical to our security and our way of life, and lays out the fundamental principles to put America first in space. Dr. Scott Pace will go into more detail about the President's new national space policy in just a few moments, but it represents our ongoing commitment at the National Space Council and throughout this administration to ensure American leadership in space. But for now, let me just say that because of the hard work of all the men and women of the National Space Council putting our President's vision into effect, because of the hard work of all of the dedicated men and women on our Space Council Advisory Group and the support of the American people and leaders in the Congress, we've made great progress in the last 4 years. But as you will hear again today, there is a renewed determination all across this nation and all across this government and all across every level of government to continue to build on the extraordinary progress that we've made. And today we will hear about that progress, the ongoing challenges and opportunities that America faces. So let me say once again, welcome to this 8th meeting of the National Space Council. Let's get to work.